Hi, I am Rachel Morgan, a sales trainer and coach that works with you to help you convert your leads into paying clients. Today, I have Stephanie with me, who's an international logistics manager at a high-end steel trading company in New York City, where she lives with her Frenchie puppy Meatball and her husband. She's also the founder of her own company, Strongerlike Inc., which started early during the pandemic as a fitness blogging hobby on Instagram. Over the last 18 months, it has evolved entirely, and we're going to talk so much about that, which I'm excited. Stephanie combines her own business knowledge and experience from 6 years working with people all over the world with her deep passion for community and collaborative learning to connect entrepreneurs everywhere so that they can gain perspective and clarity via a community built on strength, love, and individuality. Through a unique blend of trainings focused on developing personal skills with a tactical approach, Stephanie aims to move entrepreneurs out of their own heads and into action that moves them forward. So one topic that continues to emerge is how we can let go of perfectionism, which often leads to burnout, and within our own business. Because I don't know about you, I struggle with perfectionism and letting go and just making that thing happen. So in order to take action, right? And we can't make sales if we don't take action. So without further ado, let's get Stephanie on here. And hello to everyone this morning. I would love to know where you're from, so please make sure to share that down below with us and reach out and let us as well. And we'll make sure to answer them as we go, because I think we can all relate to feeling that perfectionism. Hello, good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
I am so good. One thing
Yeah, me
Stephanie and I
too.
were chatting about is how letting go sometimes. This morning, I know we started a few minutes late because some things came up. So this is a prime example for sure.
Absolutely. I know that you are pretty big on being on time, being punctual.
Right.
Um, and you know what? I think that part of coming on live and part of doing these live trainings is making sure that you're in your element and that you're in like the right energy. And so I think that if we had tried to rush it and tried to like be on time, we might have been a little bit flustered. So at the end of the day,
Yes.
like you kind of got to think about like the deliverable and the outcome. Like
Right.
we're trying to show people that like it's okay to not be perfect. And like how does it
The
feel to
prime
just let
example.
go? Yeah.
Prime example today, right? When it
Exactly.
rush things and how it influences our sales and our business and client experience and all that. So there you go. We're not all perfect, right? And that's a good thing. Does that
Exactly.
please, before we get started, I would just love to know, what does perfectionism mean? Or what does it mean to not be perfect?
So I actually think I was thinking about this a little bit last night and talking to my husband about this. Um, and I think perfection first of all, it's different for everyone.
Right.
So like my idea of what it means to be perfect is totally different than your idea of what it means to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that's one of the things we're going to touch on a little bit later. But for me, I think perfection is the belief that things as they are in their current state don't need to be changed. And like we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to like fix anything. And that pretty much goes against my entire brand, right? So I am like totally okay with being not perfect because I believe that as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people, we want to always be thinking about how can I improve today? How can I improve tomorrow? What can I do to be a better person every single day? And I think that
Mm.
when you worry about perfection, you're worrying about you end up being complacent.
Ooh, that's a whole new topic right there. That is value to think about and a reflection, right? And I also really like that you said, level of perfectionism, it depends on the person, right?
hmm
What's perfect to you is not perfect to me. It's all relevant to our experience and situation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so like at the end of the day, like because of that,
Mm.
Because you don't have the same view of perfect as I do. Nobody really has any idea if you are showing up as perfect,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
their definition's different than yours.
Right. Right. So it's about progress and improving a little bit each day, right? Could be that perfectionism, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So in your own words then, why do you feel like we should be mindful of perfectionism? Like,
Hold on, you're cutting out a
oh,
little bit.
sorry.
Oh,
So
you're
just
fine.
in your own words, what do you feel it means to be like, why should we be mindful of perfectionism? Why should we care?
So I think the one thing that we should care about when it comes to perfectionism is how can we show up and like be totally okay with how we're showing up as we are without worrying about perfection. Like you want to kind of think about like what is the end goal of me doing anything, right?
Right.
And am I getting distracted by little elements that really don't affect the deliverable at all at the end of the day? So, um, for example, maybe you're sending out a newsletter to your community.
Right.
If you have one or two grammatical errors, it's not going to like you're not going to lose people. If you have multiple broken links, okay, like that you might lose somebody, but like if like even that's not the end of the world. Like everything's
Right.
fixable, and the more you're okay with like delivering like this end outcome and being okay with like okay, I make mistakes, I'm not perfect, you're showing a human element.
Yes.
um
Yes. It's being human. Absolutely.
exactly.
Saying like, we all make mistakes. We learn as we go. I know we've had many conversations too, like, oh my gosh, I said the wrong word, or I put it in there twice. Like, should I send it out?
Right.
And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, I didn't notice. And
Right.
like we notice our own things, I think, more than other people do. And speaking psychology wise, I think that's because we're always so focused on ourselves that we're not always thinking about others, which sounds really bad. But if I'm thinking
Right.
about me, you're thinking about you, and you're not thinking about me, right? So
Right.
notice those things, like we feel other people are.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what else do you feel like this feeling of perfectionism and getting caught up with the small things can kind of lead to?
I actually think in the end it ends up leading to number one, burnout.
Mm,
Because we put these unrealistic expectations on ourselves to achieve something that is not really the goal in the end. Um, and then number two, it actually distracts us from really delivering like that key goal. Um,
right.
so I often see people getting caught up in like the how they said it, or like did I say too much? Did I say too little? Like did you accomplish the goal?
Right.
That's it. That's all that matters. And if there's a missing period, a missing comma, like okay. If somebody's gonna get caught up on that, they're not your people, and that's okay.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I'll put this in perspective for a second. So, being that I used to be a store manager, training was really important. Like, I need to make sure that my team got the training that they needed, that they knew what was expected of them. Like, information can be really powerful. And so, when we, focus on this perfectionism of my training has to be perfect, it has to look beautiful, like, you end up kind of, oh no, did I lose you? Uh oh. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep talking because I'm not sure. Um, but when we get so caught up in just doing the thing and getting the information out, then it doesn't happen, and we almost like disservice people from having it. So, oh no. Okay, let's get her back on here. Did we lose Stephanie? Oh no. Okay, well, I'm gonna carry the conversation for a second until she gets back on here. Um, but I think like perfectionism just really holds us back in so many ways that we don't end
Sorry
up.
about
That's
that.
okay. I was like, wait, is it my end or your end? So I'm so sorry to everyone. So if you're still here, we so appreciate you. And if any questions come up too, we want to hear from you. So make sure to leave them for us. But I really feel that when we get, what I was saying is when we get really caught up, we end up not doing anything. And then that lack of not taking action actually really disservices people, whether it's your team or your community or your clients, right? Because they don't know the difference, right? You're just trying
Exactly.
meet your level of perfectionism, and theirs could be like way below yours, it could be way above, like it's like you said, it's relative. And so we really like disservice everyone by not just taking action, by
Right.
holding on to this perfectionism. So and
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, that's a great example. And it's something that I see all the time, like in my career even. How many times do customers ask us, like, can you get this material to us on this day? You
right,
know, we try to always say, hey, like, this is what's going on in the marketplace. This is like, there's a lot of things going on. So, all going well, we will do our absolute best to get it there and we will keep you informed. If
right,
it doesn't arrive on time, it's not the end of the world. Like, obviously, we strive to,
right,
but what's more important is not that we don't avoid saying like, oh yeah, we can do this or we can't do this.
right,
When things don't go according to plan, we're not going to avoid our customer. We're going to tell them like this is what's going on. It
right,
You want to really take a customer focused approach, and
right.
sometimes that means admitting not being perfect. Sometimes that means admitting like things aren't going well. So,
It's funny that you say that because I actually met a previous client of mine for lunch the other day. And she was,
hmm,
oh, Rachel, I just really always appreciated that you were really honest about what was going on. And, obviously there's like a level of professionalism. Like you're not going to just like tell your like personal things, but I was really honest. Like, gosh, we didn't receive our shipment like we hoped. This is why. Like, just like saying like we're not perfect. Like things come up. I mean, even right now with Wi-Fi
right,
you just jumped up and we rolled with it. So, it
right,
happened, and communication is really important. And as you know, like in sales, like I really do believe in the power of communication. That's what sales is. And so, being able to even communicate in those circumstances with our clients because we're client focused, right?
right.
Important. And I think that they trust you more because you are being honest about what's going on behind the scenes with them, but on a professional level, right? That's the key part, is not being like, oh my gosh, all these things are happening, my life is horrible. Like
Exactly.
it's okay to be a little honest that like, a lot is going on, it took me an extra moment, like,
Hmm.
that is a different question.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, if you're constantly, there's a difference, I think, between making excuses
Hmm.
and like just being open and honest about what's happening. So,
Right.
if I'm
Yeah.
constantly like, oh, but this, oh, but that, like I'm gonna lose your trust. And that's, of course. Like
Right.
if everything's always, oh, but blah blah blah, you're gonna lose people.
Right.
But
That influences how they perceive you, right? And
right,
that directly influences your sales and your money. And that's why like letting go and being honest and communicating can be really important to client experience and how they view you and money, right?
exactly.
That's key right there.
Exactly. And I think that learning how to separate, like that there's a difference between making excuses and being real about not being perfect. I think that's really going to like set you apart in your niche and your industry because um I know for me, like before I was totally able to let go of being perfect, I used to let my excuses be my reasons for not doing things and not showing up. And like inaction is worse than showing up as imperfect.
Right.
Um,
Like holding off on launching something, you're putting something out there because it doesn't feel perfect to you. But by not putting it out there, you're literally costing yourself money, right? Because
exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I know that you've really built your business around that idea as well, is being honest about the things that you go through as being an entrepreneur and inspiring others to know that it's okay and that they're not alone. And that alone is a powerful thing. And that's what differentiates you, like you just said.
Right. Like I'm coming on here and saying like, hey guys, like, um, I know this is a little bit different than what I'm used to doing and what you're used to from me, but that's kind of my whole business. My whole business is helping people see that like you are not going to have all the answers today. You're not going to have all the answers tomorrow, but one day, if you keep going, if you keep showing up, you're going to have that aha moment. It's just going to happen. Um,
Right.
and you got to just get okay with being messy, showing up, doing your thing, and eventually it gets easier.
Right. Well, I know one thing that you launched this year was your course, and like you could have waited and waited and waited until it was perfect, but you're like, this is good information. I got to get it in people's hands. Like, I'm going to put it out there. And you did, and you made it free, which was phenomenal. But I
Hmm.
that you received in the feedback, like, even if you change one person's life, like, that's powerful, right? And now you're like,
Absolutely.
go back through and I need to like perfect it a little bit more, but
No,
you
not
like
perfect it. Make it better.
make it better, improve based on the feedback because you put it out there and you never would have had that feedback if you
Exactly.
and so again, like people are just really appreciative that you're honest. Like, I have this information, I want you to have it. We're gonna go through this together. Like, and even today, like let's go back to client experience for a second. Like was a few minutes behind. And if I had rushed it, I'm gonna be my whole body language, my demeanor, my tone, right? My energy is off because I'm like panic mode, right? People
Right.
it influences their perception of you and how it feels to interact with you. And so
Absolutely.
you take a moment, you take a breath, and you show up, you're going to be a better version of yourself, more clear headed, right?
Hmm.
And it's just better for everyone. So that's
Absolutely.
of like this perfectionism.
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, there are certain instances where like you want to show up like on time, like you have a client dinner, yeah, you want to show up on time because like time is money. But like in this instance where we're educating, like the deliverable is about providing you guys with not only like strategies about letting go of perfectionism, but also leading by example, And if
Right?
we are showing up in like a
Yeah.
my dog is going crazy right now, another example. Like
Life is
um yeah, sorry.
it's okay.
Um
You have the
um yeah, maybe he'll make an appearance in a little bit. um, so anyway, I think the end outcome is all about leading by example and showing you guys that like, yeah, you can build a business without being perfect. And during this training about letting go of being perfect, we have not been perfect, and yet we are still delivering that outcome. And
right.
like we were a little bit late. The Wi-Fi topped out 3, 4, 6 months ago. I would have been like, oh my God, like, it would have really like messed me up. So,
Right. So, one question that I was asked, and I also would love to know, and I'm sure everyone else, how can we start letting go of perfectionism and feel okay? Because that's kind of scary in and of itself, right? Like, how do I just like relinquish control over that a little bit?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that you have to practice, like, one step at a time, and you really need to like embrace that mindset. And so I think one of the first things I would say is ask yourself, first of all, I would say define your definition of perfect. Like, what is the perfect outcome for whatever it is that you're doing? So, if let's say you're hosting a live event, what does perfect look like? And then I want you to challenge yourself to sort of like ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen if we throw in this variable. Seriously, what's the absolute worst that can happen? And like, if
Right.
you have that image in your mind of like, okay, like it's actually not that bad if things don't go according to plan, you're enabling yourself to let go of that need to be perfect. So that's definitely one thing that I do.
That is
Um,
a good tip. That's something that I do when I feel like anxious or I have like a friend. Well, I'll say, tell me what's the absolute like best case scenario that could happen here. And I make them tell me. And then I'm like, okay, so what would be the worst? And then we talk about it and I'm like, okay, great. So we know that we're gonna fall somewhere in that, but we're prepared for both. And their like worst version is never nearly as bad as you would think, right? So
right, exactly.
you said that for perfectionism is like thinking about even like right now with our lives, like what is the absolute worst thing that could happen and what's the best thing that could happen, right?
Right, right. And in the past, I mean, two of the worst things that I would have said could have happened was my Wi-Fi would go out and that we would be a couple minutes late. Guess what? They both happened.
I
And
know.
look how many people are tuning in. And we're like so in it, you know?
Yeah,
We appreciate your patience. We're so sorry, but like I want you guys to know it is okay.
yeah, exactly. So like things can be perfect and still have enough room for improvement. Absolutely. Like this is not saying like you shouldn't always be imperfect, but it's okay if things happen and to recognize like we can always improve. And I think improvement is different than perfectionism.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like with perfect, I've almost started to see like the idea of perfect as like even if you achieve it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not always sustainable, you know?
Right.
Um like and you're also giving up something. You're giving up quite a bit to achieve that
Right.
perfection. So you have to ask yourself, like, okay, if I have this perfect, like, thing, this perfect business, if you will, what
Mm-hmm.
am I sacrificing to have that perfection? And you have to decide, is that really worth it to me to have to constantly hold myself to those standards?
Right. At least
Um,
now. Right.
yeah.
Right. And I
So,
that this is like a topic too, like being that I'm a sales trainer and you help entrepreneurs, like we don't really think about like mindset and how that influences our actions, right? Like perfectionism, but it's actually really huge, right?
yeah,
A conversation.
absolutely.
I love that we're having this conversation so much. So sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off, but continue. Yes.
Oh no, you're so fine. I think that it's a conversation that we really don't often think about when it comes to sales
Hmm.
and to customer experience, but it affects us at every single level. I mean, it affects the way we communicate, it affects the way we talk about our business. Um,
Right. Well,
like
like working with someone too, and like maybe they upset you, and then the next person you help, like you carry that energy with you, right? That's a great
exactly.
how we feel about things, how we influence other people, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, how many times have you started your day like upset about something that happened yesterday that's totally out of your control? Like,
Right.
it just affects everything, like everything that you're doing. I found if I go to the gym in a bad mood, I get a terrible workout.
Right.
Why? Because I'm bringing that negative energy back with me. Um, And so, yeah, I think just kind of learning how to uh, sort of not bring that negative energy into whatever you're doing. A big part of it is letting go of perfection because guess what? It doesn't look the same to you as it does to
Right.
everyone else. So,
Right, right. So one thing I would love to kind of talk about, when we hold on to this perfectionism, right, that holds us back from maybe taking action, or maybe like, okay, here's an example. Like maybe we're afraid to follow up with people, right? Or reach out and initiate conversation because we're afraid it's not going to be perfect. Like we're not going to use the right words or we're not going to sound the right way. Or they don't want to hear from us. Like there's a lot that can go into that besides just that. But so we have to
right.
because we're afraid of being perfect. And because we have this sense of always wanting to be perfect, it leads to this feeling of burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
It means that we tend to not show up as our best self, which then affects our business and our client experience because we're not being our best self, right? So
Right.
really, for me, one of the important things is learning how to let go of it, right? Like doing an exercise, like you said, like evaluating best case, worst case scenario, right? Working through that. But I think it's also
Mm-hmm.
setting boundaries, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I would love to like hear your thoughts on boundaries a little bit and how we can start setting them with people.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Um, so I think one of the things that I want everyone here to realize is one of the reasons we don't set boundaries is because of our need to be perfect. And
Mm,
so I want you to think about, how many times have you bent over backwards for somebody because, they asked for a certain outcome and like, you put this unrealistic time frame on it and you just want to add one last thing. Like when we're doing that, we're not creating boundaries because we are so worried about like creating this perfect thing. Um, and I think that because of our need to deliver something perfect, which again goes back to the idea that my perfect is not your perfect, um, we end up just taking on all this extra work and putting in all this extra effort,
mm,
um, instead of just saying, okay, this is what we agreed to. Here's what I was able to get done within like my comfort level and my boundaries.
right.
So, does that make sense?
Right, right. Well, and I think that when we're always on 24/7 for our clients too, that leads to us burning out, which makes us almost like resentful or like
Yeah,
not our best version of ourselves for our clients. And they deserve that, right? And so
absolutely.
I think setting boundaries is actually a good thing because it says
Yeah,
the expectation of working with me, which sets you up for a more positive experience because then you're always going to be on and they know where to find you, right? Because what if
right.
you responding all the time and you suddenly can't? They're going to be like, what is going on, right? And that
Exactly.
actually increases your client experience as a result of not having boundaries, right? Which is like,
Exactly.
right?
Right. Absolutely. It's all about setting expectations, I think, from the very start. Or, like some of you may find yourself in a situation where you feel that like you have set the bar so high and you've set expectations so high that you don't really know how to set those boundaries in. I'd love to know if any of you are struggling with that right now. Where, you created this client experience where you're finding that you've got to be on and perfect all the time. Because I
Right.
think that's something that like it's fixable, believe it or not.
Right.
There are definitely ways, and we can't really cover everything right now, but there are definitely ways to start to like pull back and reset expectations.
Right.
Um,
I know I felt that a lot being a store manager, right? Like I felt like I needed to be the best version of myself for my team and but also for my customers. And this feeling of always being on and needing to like be perfect actually harmed me more because
right,
like I said, be my best self. And then it leads to burnout, which leads to bad feelings. And then your team feels that and your clients feel that. And it just yeah, so it really is so important to like understand the importance of boundaries and knowing like when you have to say no and when you like checking in for the day like to like and when to like tune out for the day, right?
right, absolutely. And that's something I've
Yeah,
struggled with for a long time, especially being somebody that has a career and also is running a business. Um,
which
one
makes
of
you
the,
conversation because you do run
yeah,
a job in the steel industry and supply chain management, but you also run a business, right?
right. Right. And so one of the things that I've been working on, especially in the last couple of months, is like once I realized like, oh my God, like the only way that I can manage both is to sacrifice literally everything that makes me happy, and I'm running myself dry. Um,
Right.
so one of the things that I have really done that's really helped is I've started to say, what am I doing that is completely unnecessary or that is, 10 steps ahead of where I need to be today? How can I really get focused on like one or two main outcomes so that I can deliver it and give my 99.9% best every time I show up?
Right. Right. And sometimes it's saying no to things, right?
It's,
So,
yeah, including yourself.
right. 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 Yes, exactly. Um, so Stephanie, is there anything that we missed here that you felt was so important about perfectionism that you want people to think about, things that they can do to implement, or just like a new perspective shift?
Yeah, so I think like one of the things that you guys can do if you are struggling with perfectionism is I want to challenge you to ask yourself, um, what can I do? What can I stop doing today that is creating this like pressure of feeling perfect? Like, why am I pressuring myself to feel perfect, and how can I stop doing that? I want you to start to sort of audit yourself and like what you're doing each and every day, and ask yourself, are any of these tasks and any of these actions that I'm taking, am I doing them because of my need to be perfect? And which of these things do I need to stop doing because they're burning me out?
That's really powerful to think about, right? It's really uncomfy. I'm gonna say uncomfy, right? To actually like challenge yourself a little bit and really get deep and clear on that with your own self, because really only you're the only one that can answer that for you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that I want you guys to think about is um, start asking your clients, and this is something I've been doing a lot lately, is start asking your clients what are like the amazing things that you've done for them. Like, what are they blown away and so excited that they've gotten the chance to work with you
Mm.
on? Um, and then I want you to think,
Oh
okay, what
no,
did I do to get there?
you're back.
Am I back? Hi. Um,
Mm.
I want you to think, what did I do to achieve that result? Because what I'm finding that's very interesting is I'm doing all these things. I'm like, I'm making myself nuts, like with the membership and a course and this webinar, that webinar. And at the end of the day, like my clients are actually finding that like I'm giving each of them a very similar outcome. And the way
Mm.
that I'm giving that outcome is that I'm supporting them through one-on-one, like Voxer style coaching. And so that helped me to say, I'm putting all this pressure on myself to give this like incredible experience when really all I need to do is be focusing on them in this way.
Right. And, I think what you just said too made me think of something is that you are worrying about all these things, but so are they. They are running businesses as well, right?
Right,
Not noticing all the little things like you are, right? Like, because they're
right,
their own little things.
exactly. And so there certain things that like that I'm letting go of because I had this story that I was telling myself, this story that I was believing I needed to be everywhere all the time, do all these things, and that was kind of false.
Right.
So it's
I love
okay to let go.
right. And then yeah. So that's so much to think about, right? Is knowing what's burning you out, reflecting, right, on that, and asking
Mhm.
yourself, why do I feel I need to be perfect, right? And
Mhm.
do they actually notice it? Is there anything that is leading to burnout that I can let go of? And ask your clients, right? Like, how are they feeling? Like, how have you helped them? And just like be open to that feedback.
Right, exactly. And I mean that'll they have all the stuff that they can tell you what they need from you, and that's it. That's really all you need to be doing.
Right, right. Focus on them. Focus on how you're going to help them get to the end result. Don't worry. I mean, client experience is very important and understanding in the client journey. Do not get me wrong. But you will show up as your best self and have a better client experience if you are feeling energized and not burned out as well. And perfectionism
Exactly.
burnout. And I will admit that firsthand. I know exactly how that feels because I am
Yeah,
definitely honest. And so I've learned to really let that go this past year. And I think you have as well. And I think many of us recognize that. I think that's why social media can feel so overwhelming too, is that we
hmm,
need to be perfect in every way all the time. And so
right.
it's not a good feeling for everyone. And so learning how to set boundaries and knowing like what's triggering it as well.
Absolutely. And just keep in mind, guys, like what you're seeing on social media is what people want you to see. That's
That's true.
it.
It's very true.
Like
Yeah.
you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, or even like in the 5 minutes before that they posted that post. Like you have no idea.
And
So,
that's why it's important, I think, to share that. And that's where video can be really powerful in doing lives like this because you actually get to hear those things and to be honest, like what we said, like in a professional way, or to show up on your stories and share what's happening in your own life, right? And in a professional way, of course. But it makes you more relatable, helps you build more trust, and all of that just leads to more sales. I mean, truthfully, like I told you at the beginning, like one of my previous customers told me the other day, like, Rachel, you were always just so open and honest. Like, I really appreciated that. And, she's
right.
hundreds, thousands of dollars over the years and referred many people to me as a result. And we still keep in touch. So there's
Exactly.
so much power in that when we are honest and open to our community and let them in. And so don't forget that is all I can say. Be your
Absolutely.
right.
Be
I
yourself.
learned, but it all relates, right?
Absolutely. I mean, like one last thought I guess I want to leave you guys with is um think of, interactions that you've had with people that are trying to be perfect and trying to like be this like robotic, like, hello, Rachel,
Mm,
how are you doing? So like are you connecting with them? No. But Rachel and I are connecting. We're laughing about the fact that, like, we had to come on late and I lost my Wi-Fi, and we're
yeah,
literally talking about not being perfect. And this has been such a powerful training. So I want you guys to let go of that belief that you need to be like this, like, super, like, cut and dry, perfect person, because the people that you relate to in your life, your friends, your family, your spouse, they love you because you're not perfect, and they love you anyway. So your clients will love you for that too.
right, right. I love that. What a beautiful way to kind of summarize our conversation, but also leave people with optimism, which is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Stephanie, if people would love to just know more about you and what you offer your community, and for those who don't know, I know Stephanie offers such a strong and powerful community. So we would love to know, like, how do we become a part of that?
So right now I'm actually in the process of kind of like adjusting my courses. Um, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you guys all a 72-hour sneak peek every 2 weeks of the newest lessons going into my courses. Um, and the way that you can get a hold of that every 2 weeks is subscribing to my biweekly newsletter, um, which is on my link in bio. It's called Likewise, and I'm kind of releasing sort of like a secret with a training and a challenge, and that's sort of a little bit of like a overview of what we're going to be working on in the individual training. So,
Right. I love that.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I'm a
fun.
too, and I will say, one thing about Stephanie is if you ever have questions or need to work through an idea, she is your girl. Her DMs are always open, and she's extremely client focused. So if this is a conversation that does interest you about perfectionism or how to set boundaries, please do reach out to her. She'll have so much to share with you and help you.
Yes, and stay tuned, guys. I am definitely going to be opening up some exciting surprise coaching experiences in the next couple months. So I'll be announcing that soon. You'll definitely want to get on to the newsletter to learn a little bit more about
Right. Well,
that.
thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining me today and having this conversation. I know it's definitely a different one when it comes to sales, but nonetheless, an extremely important one that we often don't consider. And so I appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you for everyone for listening and joining in. We also see you and we appreciate you and for all of your questions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Have a good
All
rest.
right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.